Chris Williamson.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very pleased to follow the honourable member for Torbay. Before I start, I just wanted to pay tribute to a working class hero whose funeral is taking place today, Derek Robinson, who once said, "I can sleep sound at night because I never betrayed the workers," and I think it's important we acknowledge that towering figure in the Labour movement. Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet source is quoted as saying that this budget had the worst build-up in history. I don't think he was wrong. I hear a number of members on the opposite benches who've gone absolutely bananas about the budget ahead of today. But what is pretty clear to me is that this budget caps off 7 years of abject failure, first of all by the coalition, now by the Conservative minority government. And contrary to the warm words that we've heard from members on the opposite benches, and indeed members from the DUP, this budget's proved that the government's out of touch, has no idea about the lives of ordinary people, and certainly no plans to improve them. What we're seeing here is an irrational ideology actually trumping plain common sense. They're driven by a neoliberal ideology which has proven that they are certainly not a government for the many. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, where is the help for low-paid workers? The measures that the Chancellor announced on universal credit were absolutely pathetic, and it's also worth making the point that they don't come into effect before Christmas either, so people will be left penniless over the Christmas period. Where's the support for public sector workers? Let's remember, public sector workers like firefighters and social workers and others, they define a decent society. I didn't see here any mention of support for them. Where's the significant investment in the infrastructure that this country desperately needs? Where's the boost for health and education and local government? Social care is in absolute crisis. Support for vulnerable children is another area which is in crisis. Now, we heard the Chancellor say that he was going to make some money available for fire safety, but when local authorities have approached the government for support with installing retrofitting sprinklers, that support has been refused. The IFS have estimated that local government funding will fall by 79% by 2020. And ahead of this budget, the NHS Chief Executive warned that without funding, waiting lists will climb further to 5 million, and the 18-week target will be scrapped. And the key targets, such as the 62-day cancer treatment target, will also be missed. And the extra money that was announced will not actually tackle that crisis. Last year, we saw a 40% cut in the adult skills budget, meaning that 1.3 million less adult learners as a consequence of that. Now, we heard the Chancellor say that he wanted to make the dream of home ownership a reality. But where's the meaningful plan to enable working class people to buy their own home? Where's the council house building programme? And the former Chancellor, George Osborne, promised that austerity would wipe out the deficit. Well, they've certainly not achieved that, have they? The failure to do so means that austerity has simply amounted to nothing more than conscious cruelty. They've failed to eliminate the debt as well, and this Chancellor today said that debt is peaking. It seems to me that all the Chancellor is doing is fiddling while Britain burns, and is fiddling around with the Housing Association debt and taking that off the balance sheet is really nothing more than a bit of trickery. What we've seen is a spectacular failure by this government on any measure in relation to the debt and the deficit. It's a kind of case of really rearranging the deck chairs in relation to debt. I wonder whether the Chancellor might have a new job as a deck chair attendant on Brighton Beach when he's actually sacked as the Chancellor in this place. But he's gone on to say, the Chancellor today, that there are more jobs than ever. But the problem is that after 7 years of austerity, productivity is woefully low, and other honourable members have made reference to this. Every ONS productivity forecast since 2010 has been wrong, and causing them to significantly downgrade their projections. Businesses are simply not investing because they lack confidence in the economy. The Tory ideology is wrong. The doctrine of neoliberalism says that the state should be rolled back, but it's clear that we need an entrepreneurial state. And I wonder if the members on the opposite benches recognise that much of the technological advances have been made by public sector investment. Little wonder that the growth forecasts are so anaemic for the years going forward. Now, the previous Chancellor also said that the government wouldn't balance the books on the backs of the poor, but that's precisely what the government has done, with £12 billion more in social security cuts for working age people in the pipeline. NHS waiting lists, as we've heard, are going to increase, and the extra funding for the NHS will simply not actually tackle that very real problem. And we've also seen a skewed level of investment around the different regions, where we have the ludicrous spectacle of investments on rail, for example, in my region of the East Midlands, running at £91 per head, whereas in London it's running at £746 per head. We need a different approach. It doesn't have to be like this, Mr. Speaker. Labour would offer a different approach. We would end the public sector pay cap, we would pause and fix the universal credit debacle, we would introduce a real living wage, bring in an energy price cap, bring forward infrastructure developments in every single region around the country, create a high-wage, high-productivity jobs, start a large-scale house-building programme, and also have controls over rent, scrap tuition fees and stop penalising people for getting a higher education, reverse the tax cuts to corporations and the super-rich, and clamp down on the disgraceful industrial-scale tax avoidance which takes place in this country, and reject the Tories' Brexit cliff edge and the race to the bottom that will turn Britain into a deregulated tax haven. The Chancellor claimed that he was embracing the future, but the truth is this government is stuck in a Thatcherite past. It's dogmatic in its commitment to neoliberalism, despite the fact that it isn't working. Government ministers will remember, no doubt, from their ideological training in their public schools and elite universities, that the market is supposed to distribute wealth as an invisible hand. It's as if the Tories believe in ghosts. This budget shows that they still believe in the invisible hand of the market, but in reality, no such thing exists. They're deluding themselves, blinded by ideology. What Britain needs in reality is the steering hand of an entrepreneurial state. What Britain needs, Mr. Speaker, is a Labour government that will provide it.